Welcome to another episode of the Skift Podcast. This is Rafat Ali, CEO and founder of Skift. I'm here with a dear friend of mine that I've known, and we've had parallel journeys in the field of entrepreneurship and travel. And also both of us happen to be Indian. Both of us happen to go to the same university in US, which is a thing we found out quite late. And so I figured I'll invite him and have a conversation. Bhanu Chopra, who's the founder and managing director of RateGain. For those of you who don't know RateGain, let me give context. RateGain is an Indian success story. The first ever, I didn't know this until recently, the first ever SaaS company in India to go public, which is a huge deal. RateGain is behind tons of travel, pretty much everything that you book online. There's a good chance that RateGain is behind some of the information that leads to that transaction. They work with a lot of hotels, airlines, destinations, OTAs in the travel industry, sort of information powerhouse that enables the travel economy online. So welcome, Bhanu, to the Skip Podcast.
Thank you, Rafat. And, as we were talking earlier, I'm super excited to be here, especially because I have deepest amount of respect for you and, your um thoughts on different topics within the travel industry and how you are progressing travel overall as a platform. Kudos to you and the team.
Thank you. Appreciate that. So you RateGain 2025. How many years has it been? 2004. So it's 21 years. Last year was 20 years.
That is correct. It's been over 2 decades.
It's been over 2 decades. And as a public company listed on the Indian Stock Exchange, it's been 3 years.
That is correct. Yeah,
And
we're over
so
3 years now.
3 years. Um, Give me a sense of the sort of the first 3 years as a public company, and what are your lessons you've learned in the last 3 years as a public company? Because you were the first, as I said, the first SaaS company to go public in India. Your story is very intertwined with the India story itself. Um, and so give me a sense of that, and then we'll jump into other questions.
Yeah, so it's been very, very exciting because, as you mentioned, that we were the first company, SaaS company to list. So I think in the initial sort of pre-IPO, when we were doing roadshows and educating investors, and even within the first year, a lot of time went into explaining the SaaS business model and how that model is far superior than any other business models, because a lot of the companies that exist in India are still very traditional, sort of brick and mortar. So it took us some time in educating the marketplace, but after that I think it's been a lot of fun. um, I think the other big thing that I've learned is around sort of capital allocation, because there is huge amount of focus on matrices, return on capital, return on equity, how are you allocating capital. So yeah, it's been a fun ride. um, I think prior to listing the company, we were private equity owned, and there a lot more focus was on growth. So growth at any cost was kind of the mantra. And when we went public, we were we were profitable, but we were not as greatly profitable. And so a lot of focus became on profitable growth, and so there was a little bit of tightening of the belts and really focusing on unit economics and profitable growth. But I'm happy to report that we did a very, very good job, because when we listed the company, we were at like 7-8% EBITDA margin, and the last quarter we reported like 21% EBITDA margin. But I do feel, as a result of that, there was a little bit of a compromise on growth. So we're back to sort of reinvesting and trying to accelerate growth now, because we've proven to the investors that we can grow profitably.
Yeah. One, it looks like the investors aren't totally happy because your valuation has come down. But how much of that is company versus this? Even though the Indian stock exchange stock market is doing well, the travel stocks overall in the world, this is true for US as well, are not doing so well because of general uncertainty in the geopolitical space, and the investors are discounting just sort of future growth for all types of companies in travel. Um, what do you attribute some of the sort of stock challenges, if you will, and how much do you worry about it? One, and two, what can you do about it as a founder of a company?
Yeah, so um, my sense is that the little bit beating of the stock is not as much to do with the travel industry in general, because if you look at Make My Trip and Ixigo and likes of those, they're doing reasonably well. I think our challenges are our own internal execution challenges that we've had. The company, quite frankly, has grown really, really well over the last 3 4 years. So we grew almost 3x 4x. So the larger base effect has also sort of kicked in, and to grow at that similar 50 60% growth because of the larger base also becomes more challenging. But to your question about do I worry about it, absolutely not. We've signed up for this marathon, and I know these things will happen. And something that I've said in one of the other TV interviews to a very popular Indian financial channel is, I said, if I look at the stock price, when will I work? So and you'd be surprised, Rafal, I've actually not looked at the stock price in several weeks now. And you know the focus really is learning from all the challenges that we've had, and how do we sort of improve the execution rigor as a result of which. And one of the things that I have realized is that as a company we go through different stages. So we've already gone through 0 to 1, 1 to 10, and now we're going to that 10 to 100 journey, where the aspiration is to take the company to a billion in revenue. So when you go through this different stages in the life cycle of the company, you have to pivot and imagine how you are structured in terms of people, in terms of processes, in terms of tools that you're using. So I feel these. I don't want to use the word setback, but uh, this is good to keep you humble, and to to keep your focus on how you continue to improve. So while the stock price might not be reflecting, uh, it's not reflecting truly how I feel it may not be reflected in the stock price, but I do feel that we are the strongest ever that we could have been, right? I am extremely excited about the AI revolution that's happening, and how we are applying that at RateGain. You know, I mean, internally, I now tell people innovation is cheaper all of a sudden. Innovation is at a fraction of a cost that it used to be. We're able to, I mean, you've heard of all software companies having a backlog of things they want to do, of use cases they want to solve. We're solving more use cases than we have a backlog for as a result of this AI revolution. So it gets me very, very excited about this huge paradigm shift. I don't believe every competitor of ours is positioned to take advantage of that. I like to believe we are, and we are making some fundamental changes in how we are structured. We are making a lot of investments in our go to market strategy. We are getting closer to our customers to understand what their pain points are, and how do we enable them to digitize and take advantage of this AI revolution. So lots of exciting stuff happening. The company is very well positioned in terms of the leadership bandwidth that we have added, in terms of our go to market, in terms of all the innovations and capabilities that we are launching. So I'm very confident about the future in how we take advantage of all of this. And company is very well capitalized. We have zero debt. So there are usually four pillars that I look at: strategy, execution, people, and cash. So in all those pillars, I feel like we're the strongest that we've ever been.
Let's jump into some of these things because you brought up AI, and one of the things I realize we haven't told people who don't know RateGain is what does rate. I mean, I assume that everybody knows because I know your company quite well. Um, you are the transaction adjacent engine that helps airlines, hotels, destinations, online travel companies, whether it's pricing information, whether it's well, you explain quickly in sort of layman terms exactly what RateGain is today.
Yeah, so I'll talk very quickly about how we started. So we started, and that's how most people think of us, but we are much bigger than that. Um, we started as a competitive intelligence provider. So basically, as you know, pricing is the most important factor in how consumers book travel. And so we provide pricing information to all the major players, all the suppliers and intermediaries in the travel ecosystem on how competitive they are, because that's the most important determinant on how people book travel. That's how we started. But fast forward to today, we built this platform now that allows our customers to acquire guests, retain and engage them, and have a wallet share expansion. And how do we do that? We do a lot of work around guest acquisition through digital marketing. We have the world's largest travel intent platform. We have a lot of signals where we know who's going where, what are they buying. So as a result of which, we are able to do very, very precision based marketing that we are able to drive a much larger return on ad spend for our customers that engage with us. Now we have built direct booking capabilities and with a lot of conversion tools. So our value proposition is very, very simple. We will power you with intense amount of data and enable you to do guest acquisition and realize maximum share of their wallet.
And so you've grown with a mix of organic and some inorganic. You've bought this U.S. company that many of us in the travel industry, at least the travel tech world, knew, Adara, which is a very good deal for you guys. Such a smart, opportunistic acquisition that you guys did. Um, and then I think maybe one or two more that I'm forgetting at the top of my head. But you've done a few acquisitions. What's the status of sort of organic versus inorganic growth? And you have a bunch of cash as well. So what's your thought on sort of organic versus inorganic growth?
Yeah, so I think given all the capability set that we have, as well as the customer segments that we service today, which you talked about in airlines, hotels, and DMOs and car rental companies, etc. I think the opportunity is very, very large. And I do believe organically we aspire north of 20%. So we follow that rule of 40 in SaaS, which is your sum up of your EBITDA percentage and growth percentage, and we want to be north of 40 of that. So last year, our growth was slightly lower. It was about 13%, but we did about 21% of EBITDA, which is 34. So our goal is to we aspire to get to that, north of rule of 40. On the M&A side, um, we are extremely judicious and also very patient. In fact, you talked about our last acquisition, which was Adara, which was now, oh gosh, I think 2.5 years ago, and we are, willing to wait for the right opportunity. So the way we think about M&A opportunities are, if you think about the platform that we have, which is 3,200 plus enterprise customers, we have a huge opportunity to gain much larger share of wallet with them. So our focus is really on revenue generating tools for the industry. So if we find capabilities that allow our customers to make more money through gas, those are, which is referred in software parlance as front office software. That's our that those are the areas that we look at. And secondly, we want to get deeper in certain markets. We are still very, very dominant in the US. Majority of our revenue comes from North America. So we look at opportunities that allow us to continue to get deeper in US and Europe. And opportunistically, if you look at everything that we do, there aren't a lot of players. There is some amount of fragmentation, but we want to also be the player that rolls up and consolidates the industry as well. So opportunistically, we're looking at some competitors also. But like I said, Rafat, we have very, very strict internal thresholds, payback periods, IR thresholds that we have, and we are extremely patient to do the right kind of deal. So we've been sitting on good amount of cash, and I do get a lot of pressure from investors as well. But we want to be very judicious about how we go forward with it.
Hey everybody, I'm Sarah Kopit, editor-in-chief at Skift, and I've got to be honest with you, I am just blown away by how fast our industry is changing. AI is transforming how people book, platforms are flipping business models and consumer behavior. It is more unpredictable than ever. And that's why I am so excited for this year's Skift Global Forum happening September 16th through 18th in New York City. This year's theme jumps into the future, Travel 2030, people, platforms, and new paths forward. You'll hear from leaders at Booking Holdings, IHG, AirAsia, plus dozens more shaping the future of travel. And this year, we've got more than just stage talks. We've got expert-guided roundtables and new networking formats designed to spark real conversation so you can do real business. Expect it to be more interactive, more personal, and more valuable than ever. Join me and the rest of the industry at Skift Global Forum. Use the code PODCASTS for $800 off the full price at live.skift.com. Hope to see you there.
I want to come back to a little bit, but I want to talk about sort of, I know you're launching tools. You announced a voice bot. I saw the demo that you did at one of the conferences you spoke at. I was watching the YouTube video of yours, um, and your personal experience of this hotel you went to for skiing, and then you sort of took that example to illustrate what's the possibilities there. So it's interesting. So what's the unlock in your head that happened on AI, both in terms of internally using it, because I feel like for me as an entrepreneur, that's the bigger advantage. I mean, I'm not in the software world. I'm in the media information world, um, and leads to margin expansion, which I also want to talk about a little bit. But also then in terms of tools that you're offering, so you're in a dual position of you're building tools in AI, but they're also probably a version of those tools you're using yourself, or not version, but using the same AI base for your own
Yeah.
business as well.
So this is the most exciting question, and I get super excited about it because, as I was saying to you, I do believe very, very strongly that fundamentally how we live, work, operate is going to change massively. It's changing already, but it's gonna, we may be even underestimating the power of what it'll do. But I'll talk about first, how are we thinking about it from an external perspective on what can we do with AI for the industry at large, and then I'll talk about some internal use cases, which is also quite exciting on what we are doing. So fundamentally, I believe when you are building products in our industry, Something that I touched upon already is innovation is going to become cheaper, meaning everything can happen much faster, right? So we are launching products at a speed that I have never seen in the last 2 decades. I mean, literally, I can launch a new product in a matter of weeks, and we are launching products in matter of weeks. I just don't have the ability. I mean, we are working that out in terms of go to market motion on how do we launch and streamline it so that it gets to our customers and they see value in it. But the biggest, uh, thing that we have achieved over the last 6 months is the speed of innovation. We've launched products like they're not really AI products, but like I said, much faster innovation. So for our instance, on our distribution product, we launched something called Smart ARI, which basically makes the connection between the hotels system and the OTAs much faster. The speed of updates, the speed of receiving the transactions is almost 30-40% faster, and we're calling it Smart ARI. And our customers are loving it because now you are almost near real time sync of the information between the hotel and the OTA. We launched something called daily AI digests. So these are nuggets of actionable intelligence that we are sending to our customers on what we are seeing basis the data. Where do we see demand going up? What are the hot dates where demand is going to go up? Launching like an AI demand agent. So there are lots of um, features or capabilities that we've been able to cut down the speed of innovation. The other thing that we are doing, which I believe is the big promise of AI and which we are working towards, is think of a co-pilot, right? So think of the personas that we are servicing. So we are servicing a persona of a revenue manager, a marketing manager, a pricing manager. So our goal is to make their work semi-autonomous. I think it will get to a point where it'll be fully autonomous, where you will have an AI revenue manager, an AI marketing manager. So as people think of, our customers think of digital avatars of these roles, we can play a very big role. But I think, as you know, Rafat, our industry also is digitally averse, risk averse. I always find it very difficult. The technology is there, but the adoption is much lower. So we have taken the path of being semi-autonomous. So we've launched a bunch of capabilities which act as a co-pilot to each of these personas. So for a revenue manager, I talked about an AI demand agent, which will basically give them a sense of how demand is and how they should action on it. We just we do a lot of digital marketing. We handle social media. So we've created a semi-autonomous platform where a hotel can go sign up. They just sign up and it is capable of creating fully autonomous posts on Instagram. It will track what is the engagement level it sees on these social media channels and learn from it, and basis that continue to iterate and post better creatives and better posts. We are doing, you heard about the Viva chatbot agent, which can enable bookings, but also help in discovery information that consumers may have. We have launched AI powered co-pilots for campaign managers because we do digital marketing on different channels. So the goal is, like I said, to create co-pilots for the personas that we cater to. And internally, we have created this culture of what we call product builders, and we are constantly running hackathons and workshops to solve for internal use cases that we may have. So, for instance, I'll talk about it in HR. We launched an AI agent, again built from Viva Agent, to your point, and it is being trained on all our HR policies. So you can talk to Remo, who's our AI HR agent, 24 by 7. It can act as a therapist. It can answer any questions around policies, your vacation, any question that you may have. We, on talent acquisition, literally built like a product in 2 or 3 days, which acts as a screening tool for hiring salespeople. So it on the fly generates questions. We're building an avatar, which is recruiter avatar, to ask the questions, and then it shortlists candidates basis this whole analysis, which can be further carried down by the recruiter and the hiring staff. On the sales side, again, we have amplified uh, what we can do on go to market motion, because now if a salesperson, and we are using third party tools which are, which you may be aware of, like Gong and ATM Buddy, where any sales, objection handling can be managed through these tools. On customer success, we are like have real good pulse basis all the touch points we have with customers to understand the health of the customer. So yeah, on the internal stuff also, I mean, there is, and like I think you already know, on the tech side, there is just, we're re-architecting. I think we're reimagining how the teams are structured in engineering and product. I call them product builders. So no more engineering, QA, product, UX. You're all product builders, right? With vibe coding in place, you can actually tell it. And I do believe, Rafat, that which I was saying earlier, a lot of the software that exists in the industry, not just in our industry, can be all completely rewritten. I mean, we're doing that with our products, and you can actually tell it, these are the design principles that I want to use, and can reimagine the user interface and can build it in days. So it's really really exciting times.
Are you is the nirvana of the whatever 5x 50x programmer here, or it's still ways to go?
So I think it's already here. I think the challenge that exists is, which exists even now, is is basically the integrations with third parties, because none of the software operates in isolation. You know, as you know, in our industry, for everything you want to do, you have to integrate with a PMS.
Integrate. Yeah, I was looking at your report that you came out with NYU and Hedna, and the biggest there was a survey question on what's the biggest challenge, maybe, and the number one thing was integration in the tech stack.
So I think the the only speed bump that we have to be able to ship out end-to-end solutions is this integration. Um, I'm hoping if the industry adopts the new AI integration protocol, which is being referred to as the MCP, I think MCPs may fasten this nirvana, but it's already here. I mean, in terms of being able to build out, ship out, I think the only challenge remains the integration is still, going to be a challenge, and you're kind of also dependent on the partners in the industry. I think there are, I mean, I do feel that there are a bunch of companies that are doing a great job there, and but as you know, our industry is so extremely fragmented that you need everybody to sort of keep up with the pace.
Yeah. In terms of talent in India, one of the things I've been looking at AI jobs hiring across the travel industry. I've been sort of doing a deep dive on LinkedIn posts from different companies, from airlines, from hotels, from OTAs, etc. Many of them I just saw United, the big airline in the US, is hiring a bunch of AI folks in India versus Delta, which is hiring in the US. So it's interesting contrast. I've seen Agoda hire a bunch of folks in Bangkok, but they're hiring in India to relocate them to Bangkok, which I thought was interesting too. In terms of the state of AI native, I don't know if that's the right word, talent in India today from a tech perspective, what's your sense of what the skill level is, and what the, like, how are you finding the talent today, um, keeping up with as you're hiring new people, or have you slowed down and focused on reskilling your own people?
So, okay, let me first take a step back, because I think there is a little bit of a confusion when you say an AI engineer. Okay, and I think labeling somebody who's working on an AI product and calling them AI engineer, I think is wrong. And 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 let me explain to you the way I see it, Rafat. So, and I hope you know this. I have a computer science degree, so I know a little bit about this. So, AI engineers are largely people who are going to work on the LLMs. The LLMs, to me, are the base infrastructure, right? So if you call somebody, when you say somebody is an AI engineer, to me, they are working on the LLM. They're making the model smarter. They're making the infrastructure better, right? I believe everybody else is a rapper, right? So all software companies are going to become rappers. And the best programming language for being a rapper is English, right? So I think it's the skill that you really, really need. It's my opinion that you don't need people who are like companies like us who really, really need AI engineers. We need people who can apply this, horsepower appropriately and build the right kind of wrappers.
So
So
the LLM innovation is happening at OpenAI, Meta, etc. level, and you are in the wrapper world. So you are, one of the questions I was going to ask is how much of innovation, for instance, in India is happening at that base infrastructure level, and then how much is happening on the wrapper level.
so I think you know by nature we guys are great hustlers. And the word is jugaad, right? So we're very good at that, and I think we will see some of the best um, AI wrapper companies coming out of India. Like for instance, I could debate with anyone that Perplexity to me is not an AI company, even though they call them Perplexity AI. They're a wrapper company, right?
And they're very, very good at it. They're
Yeah, they're,
very good at it.
you're absolutely right. And it's founded by an Indian guy, and I think he's built a great wrapper. And his product capability and intuition is awesome. But to go back to your question about how many deep research scientists who can work on the infrastructure exist in India, there is a talk about an India LLM. I think that's quite a foolish idea in my opinion. I
Why?
Because I think the technology exists already. You can use in Llama open source and customize it. We don't need to reinvent the wheel. I think the we're good at applying. I think innately we have that skill, and we can build great wrapper companies. And if you talk to VCs and private equity guys, they're actually putting more value on the wrapper companies than than people who
The
are
commodity. At
trying.
some point, people are saying LLMs become commodity, and then particularly if they're open sourced,
Exactly.
and
So
there's a ceiling on the innovation there at some point.
yeah, so exactly. So I I mean, maybe because we are not trying to build our own LLM. I mean, I've spoken to a couple of, I'm sure you speak to a lot of people in our industry who are trying to build their own LLMs. I think it's going down the wrong path. Um, uh, and and so net, I think given lack of hiring or exposure to that area, I would say um, I'm not at a good place to comment on how deep that talent is in India. My sense is it's not. Um, but we may be camouflaging. Also, like I said, anyone who's in rapper business also calling themselves an AI engineer, right? So, um, yeah. So, and the I think a lot of people don't understand it also, right? So, fundamentally, how I simplified it, I, 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 I don't think a lot of people get it. And so anyone who's working on anything in tech is called an AI engineer right now.
Yeah, prompt engineer. Yeah, I remember prompt engineer was a thing early on. Thankfully, that sort of went away. But even though there is actually an art of prompt, one a question that sort of I think through, like, so for instance, this I'm giving example of hospitality itself. So in hospitality, the reason why when sort of 3 to 4 star hotels come from the West to India and the region, they become 5 star. It's because they have the capability to do it in terms of labor. That is very expensive and not as available in, for instance, New York City. You probably stayed at New York hotels; they all of them suck in terms of hospitality. Versus even like a, Radisson in the U.S. versus Radisson in where you live in Delhi, a whole different experience. Um, Similarly, um, from a labor perspective, when you're making the equation in the West of human versus AI, it becomes a very easy equation because humans are hard, expensive, and AI is cheap and available in terms of automation. In India and some of the other countries, if you go more east, that equation is not as straightforward. Or um, am I misinterpreting it? Like, as in there's enough labor. India is obviously going through a demographic boom and the demographic dividend, all the stuff that I'm sure you think about in terms of tons of youth coming into the market, so tons of talent available. Um, as you're thinking about sort of AI versus humans, but if the humans don't cost that much, at least they're there for now for you to put in. Are you thinking about it that way, or is that the wrong way to think about it?
I think that's a fair point that you're making. Those are all very, very good points, Rafat. And that does tend to be the inclination of most leaders in this part of the world. Let me just throw more people at the problem. But I think it's the wrong way of thinking about things because yes, it can be cheaper in the short term, but it is going to be more expensive in the long term. B, all um, the work that AI can automate will be less error prone because human work is always more error prone. And secondly, the learning curve is much different between humans and AI. So you can teach an AI model very, very quickly for them to be live in producing and automating and solving the issue that you have versus depending on a human where it takes. So honestly, I do worry a lot about humankind in general because I do believe a lot of the entry level clerical laborious white collar work is going to be replaced by machines. I do also believe to your specific question that because labor is available cheaply, will that movement happen quickly in this part of the world? The answer is no, because there is inertia and also there is lack of knowledge on how to capitalize on this trend. So I think we in this part of the world it is going to take time, but I can speak specific to rate gain. We have pretty much frozen all new hires in tech, in operations, in delivery. We are focusing a lot in automating everything that we do. So there is, I mean, because I mean, it has to flow from the top. I'm such a big believer in this revolution, and driving. RateGain to be an AI first company, and I talked about all the things that we're doing internally and externally, that it has to I have to lead by example. So that's how, that's how we are doing it.
You're using it yourself a lot.
Yeah. I mean, my ultimate goal is that, there is an AI agent that survives me. So next time maybe you can interview.
An AI agent. Uh, Let me ask a couple of questions on the big picture on sort of being an Indian founder sitting in India while a small percent of your business is in India. It's global, as you said. U.S. North America is the biggest part of your business. I believe that's true for a couple of other founders that are friends of yours, and I know them quite well. Like Gaurav from TBO has a similar, also went public. Our friend Ritesh from Oyo is on that path. His business, you would assume, is India, but with the Motel 6 buys, actually bigger part is now US, and etc., etc. So as you think about these homegrown Indian brands that are in the old days, 10, 15, 20 years ago, would be considered outsourcing firms, and now that word is, I don't know if it's a taboo, but it's not true. One, in what ways is it not true? And two, sort of, how do you think about you in India building a global company, and what does this say about the present and the future of India and the companies that come out of it?
Yeah. So, so I think what has happened over the last decade, uh, or decade and a half, Rafat, is that as a society, I think we've gained a lot of confidence, right? I mean, look at you. You've built like a global company. I know you are in New York, but I'm sure if you decided to move to Delhi tomorrow, uh, that will not stall your growth. You will continue
Yeah,
to
I mean,
go
I'm
on to build.
As Indian as can be,
Yeah.
as you know, on like a daily basis. Yeah,
Yeah. So I think what has happened is that we as a society, as a community, have gained a lot of confidence. We see some Indians now leading the biggest tech companies in the world.
all of them. Yeah, at this
Yeah,
point.
yeah, and I, I think what has happened is we want to dream bigger. We want to say to the world that we have arrived. We can solve problems, the world problems, and we can solve for um, big problems. And your other question about, you know, how do you do it from here? I think the world is much smaller now, right? Look, we are doing this interview. We're both in different parts of the world. There is a lot of technology and communication tools that are available to us now to be, to be able to have a very close pulse of what's happening. And I think also the company is scaled to a level now where I feel like I have to think big. I have to think of the larger vision. And my role also has evolved from being more of the doer to being more of the visionary, and putting right people in the right seat. And we run a successful global business now because I believe we have the most talented team across the world leading it. And that allows me to stay here with my mom, and I live with my mom. So and I do believe
Which, by the
because
way, is very common in India. I mean, the people that would in West will have a whole different notion of what it means to live with your mom. I mean, in this case, your mom lives with you, but that's just the natural thing of like families that, as they grow older, they move into their kids' houses. It's not even a consideration in any way. Like it's what obviously everybody does.
yeah, no, that's absolutely right. But just to correct you, I do live in our house. So
You do live. Okay, okay.
so this
So
is the
yeah,
house I wasn't born in, but I grew up here from like since I was 11 years old. It's the same house. I finally now bought a house, so I will move there. But yes, I
yeah. No, I heard about the house. The house that you bought is a bit in news. That you.
Yeah.
became a little news in itself. What were we talking about? We were talking about, so has the as you travel globally, because you travel a lot, um, has the perception of Indian companies as like outsourcing companies changed dramatically, or you still face those hurdles, and how do you sort of overcome those hurdles?
It's changed. I mean, I say this to my kids all the time. The way people look at us now, even weight gain, it has changed dramatically. You're absolutely right. There used to be this baggage and connotation of being a labor arbitrage company, versus now people see you as problem solvers, as you know frontier, being a frontier and being a leader in innovation. So I see a huge perception change. In fact, I would say to you that when you arrive at a table, there is the feeling that you get, the vibe that you get is people are looking at you as an innovator. Uh, you're already established as a smart person because of the fact that you're from India and very hardworking. So it has very, very positive connotations as opposed to 10 years ago. And I didn't say this, but I'd like to also give a lot of credit to our Prime Minister. I think Prime Minister Modi has done like a tremendous job in all the in his foreign policy, in his all the trips that he makes, engaging world leaders. He was on the cover of Time, etc. So I think he's done a tremendous job in uplifting the perception on how the world sees us. I mean, if you look at Rafat, if you look in Indian stock market, we are valued better than the US stock market now in terms of PE multiples, and it continues to be it'll continue to be that way for the next decade.
In terms of your personal story of in a little bit similarity, I know we're, I think, a couple of years apart in terms of age. I think your big milestone is next year.
Yes.
Yeah, so you're 76, I'm 74, so mine was last year. And so, one, what are your plans for 50? And then, sorry, I told your age to the world, but I just Googled it. Anybody can Google it. Uh, it's there on the web, since you're a known personality. Um, and then, as you're turning 50, so you went from India to Indiana, and Indiana to India back. I went from India to Indiana as well. And as you remember, it's probably the same. Like, you were probably, we didn't overlap. Um,
I think we talked about it. We were there 1 year together.
One year we were there. Yeah, yeah. So you were in which school were you in? Remind me.
I was in Kellogg.
You were, oh, Kelly.
Yeah, Kelly. Sorry, Kelly.
Kelly. Yeah, Kelly. Kellogg, Chicago. Yeah, Kelly. And I was in the Ernie Pyle Hall, which is the journalism school back then. So not that far actually, like 5 minutes walk across the what it was called, whatever it was called, the big green area, to get to Kelly. Um, and you thought
What I
like
remember is Kilroy's because I was there every weekend.
yeah, yeah, the downtown famous bar, that was there. Um, do you think there's enough people making the journey back that need to happen, or does it need to happen? Should it happen?
So your question is, should more people, like for instance, should you move back to India?
Yeah, should I mean, like, what is the equation that, because it's still, there's still a the biggest challenge for people when they think about moving back to India. I'll talk about my personal uh, feeling a little bit. It's just the quality of life. You can buy everything, certainly, like you can live in a very modern household, apartment, etc. But the quality of living around you is still a hurdle that a lot of us have, particularly, for instance, in North India, if you will. And so, how did you think about it? And I'm sure people come to you for advice, like, I want to move back to India. How should I think about it?
I mean, you should have personal reasons to move back to India, which is largely about being closer to family, extended family, etc. Um, I do also think that, personally speaking, now we are at a stage that I do feel like that I just need to be a global citizen, and which is what I am right now, uh, whether I'm in India or anywhere else, because we are continuing to grow quite massively and actually investing quite a bit in this part of the region, especially Asia Pac. And just to give you a sense, every major conference that we have, hospitality related, every major hotel CEO is at that conference. I mean, I was at the keynote that you saw.
Yeah,
Every
Hixa. Yeah,
yeah, they were all major hotel CEOs there, and the one prior to that. So I think this is in our industry. This is uh, an area of huge interest because a lot of growth is happening here. But to come back to your question about quality of life, challenges around that, I do think those challenges do exist. I mean, I feel that especially in the winter months when the pollution levels make Delhi the most polluted city in the world, and it becomes challenging. But I'm optimistic that that will get solved with the new government in Delhi. And yeah, so those challenges are there, and just like any other major decision, you have to sort of weigh the costs and benefits. I think for me, clearly the big one is being closer to my extended family. And do I feel that people should come back here? Yes, I think so, because I think there are still lots of problems to be solved. India is a huge market. I mean, you are seeing now number of companies that are breaking even the $10 billion market cap, and I think there are going to be a bunch of global companies that are getting built out of India. I mean, it has happened, right? I mean, you not only US has built MNCs, but you see a lot of European companies. You see companies from South Korea. So I don't see why India couldn't be the next superpower in having a bunch of MNCs as well, and it can be done very much from India. But like I said, even in India, there are a bunch of opportunities because the market size is so big, and that's why the whole investment community of the world is actually looking at us. So I would absolutely encourage whoever is listening and wants to make that move.
yeah. No, I was at NYU Hospitality 3 weeks ago, maybe, and there was a big CEO, all the big hotel CEOs, and I think if it was an hour-long panel, it was probably like 20, 25 minutes was on India, and so that's a big deal.
Yeah,
Um,
and do you the questions you are asking me, Rafat? In fact, I just got invited on a panel in Spain where the panel was all Indian travel tech founders on how Indian travel tech companies have arrived on the global scene and how have we done that. So there was a dedicated panel on this.
Actually, let me. I was going to ask the last question, but let me ask one more question. The state of travel startups in India. You're not a startup, obviously. You're a public company, but you are embedded into the travel startup ecosystem. Um, Quality of startups coming out of India. Are you happy? Not happy? Still not as good as you would want it to be. What are the challenges? Investment challenges, maybe VC support, which is a challenge here too. Like VC support for travel startups is not as much as you would assume here in US.
So I do believe that the overall startups ecosystem in India is a bit subdued over the last couple of years. So it's not just the travel tech. Um, that has been because the VC industry is fairly new and young in India. And I want to say it's about maybe 15 years old, and a lot of those funds are coming up to maturity, and the exit optionality has been quite low. Although now the IPO window has opened up, and companies that have matured are using the IPO route to give their private equity investors an exit, which is what even we did at RateGain. So, but for that you have to be mature. But the overall M&A scene, which creates that liquidity for investors, hasn't really played out. But I do think, just like anything else, it's a young industry. There are lots of learnings that have happened, and it is slowly reviving back. And when that it does come back, it should also revive back a lot of the travel startups. But yes, I haven't come across too many new startups over the last sort of couple of years. The activity was much greater a few years ago, especially at the time of COVID, when checks were more written out more generously with a lot of guardrails, with just one meeting. That's kind of stopped now. So I think overall, I do feel like it's not as buoyant as it used to be, but I'm pretty confident that that will change as well. Right now, going public and IPO is like the flavor of the season.
The first, yeah. In terms of this is the last question. So we talked about turning 50. You're turning 50 next year. As you turn 50, sort of there's a legacy. No, I don't know if that's a legacy thing, but you certainly think a little more deeply about sort of your place in the world. Not that we feel old, because we're not. We're very active compared to, let's say, our parents generation. And so how are you thinking about sort of, like, is there a you and you're CEO of a public company, so you have fiduciary responsibility in terms of succession planning, etc. too. Like, how are you thinking about your legacy turning 50 next year?
Yeah, so to be honest, Rafat, I don't think about these things too much. I honestly really love what I do. I feel very blessed that I've had the opportunity to participate in such a beautiful industry, which has such a major impact on humankind, especially after COVID, in creating memorable experiences and you participating in that. So I love our industry. I love what I do. My goal is really to create, to ensure that we are creating value for our customers, creating an exciting work culture for our employees, and in the bargain, doing good work that creates impact and helps our stock price, that it creates value for our investors. So ultimately, if I'm able to contribute in having a fulfilling journey for all the stakeholders that are involved with us, I think that that is very satisfying and gratifying. And personally, I think what's important to me is, because life is short. I mean, I'm sure it's happened to you. I lost a very dear friend very recently, and he was very young as well. And I feel that as long as each day I feel that I did what I was supposed to do and added value in everybody's life, and in the process learned something new, that's good enough for me.
Yeah. um when are you going on Shark Tank India? Whenever we
I used to be close to the startup community, and I did do investments, but I don't think it's my cup of tea. I think my hands are full with RateGain. Like I mentioned to you, I am quite keen that we continue to create value for our customers and employees and shareholders. There's a lot to do. I like to ultimately take the company to $1 billion in revenue. So there's
That's the
lot to
10 to
do right
100
now.
journey you're on, the 10 to 100 journey that you said.
Yes, and
uh,
it's exciting one. So, all
yeah.
focus is on that now.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Banu. This has been very fascinating conversation. We can continue our chat for hours, and we will in the future episodes, and obviously on Skift Stage, etc., personally as well. So thank you again, and hope to get you on a Skift Stage very soon as well.
Thank you, Ravad. It's been an honor speaking with you. I always enjoy talking to you, always feel like I learned something in our conversations. And thanks again for the opportunity.
Thank you for listening to the Skift Travel Podcast. Wherever you're listening, please make sure to subscribe. If you like what you're hearing, rate us 5 stars or leave us a positive review. It really helps get the word out about us, our podcast, and make sure that we can still continue to bring it to you free of charge every week.
If you're watching on YouTube, be sure to like and subscribe. And don't forget to hit that notification bell as well. That way you'll know every time we have a new episode.